Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. What are they? How can they feel to those who struggle with them? And how can we get help if we need it? Before I jump into fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, I want to remind you to subscribe. Are you new to my channel? Make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn on those notifications, which is that little bell button next to it, so that when I upload a video, you hear about it. For the sake of talking about fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, from here on out, I'm going to call it FASD. And what FASD really is a blanket term to cover all of the different effects that a child may sustain if their mother drinks during pregnancy. So there's a lot of different symptoms that someone with FASD could have, and I'm going to go through the 4 diagnoses that fall under this umbrella. The first diagnosis and the most severe is FAS, Fetal Alcohol Syndrome. And I'm reading from my notes if you wonder what I'm looking at. I made a ton of notes, and I also am going to reference a book that was sent to me by a fellow Kenyan. So if you want more information, I'll link in the description a way for you to pick this up. It's super helpful, and I know that it has really assisted me in better understanding FASD. But let's get into FAS as a whole. FAS is the most severe of the fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. And as always, everyone's going to have a different experience and their symptoms can vary, but the most common are, and I'm just reading from my notes, number 1 is distinctive facial features. Now, the best way I can describe it, and I made some notes as to what it really means, is that someone with FAS could have small eyes and head, have a very thin upper lip, a short upturned nose, and a smooth surface between their nose and upper lip. You know this little dip that we have? That is usually not present in someone with FAS. Also, the second most common symptom of FAS can be some deformities in their limbs. Their fingers, maybe one is shorter than the other, maybe they don't have a full arm, because you have to remember that when someone is developing in the womb, we need all of the nutrients, we need all of the good things that our mother can give us so that we can develop properly and that we're given the time needed to develop. However, from others drinking, that's going to affect all development, from our limbs of our body and bodily development as well as our brain development. The third most common symptom is vision or hearing impairments. Again, just because we didn't have all that we needed while we're developing. A lot of people with FAS will struggle to hear in noisy rooms or may have really bad vision and need either corrective, like LASIK surgery, or have really thick glasses or contacts as a way to combat that. The fourth most common symptom is poor coordination and balance. And again, this is just a result of development, but they do say that getting a child at a young age into like a jamboree course or maybe a little team sport can help them improve slightly and feel more confident playing with other children. And the fifth and final symptom that I'm going to talk about in this video, but like I said, there are long lists, everyone's going to be different, there's a lot of different symptoms associated with it, but the last one I'm going to talk about is hyperactivity and jitteriness. This is why a lot of children who have FAS are actually misdiagnosed with ADHD, because it's really difficult for them to sit still, and it also means that they'll struggle in school. And before I get into the next diagnoses associated with FASD, I want to just let you know what it can feel like for someone who falls under this umbrella term. When I was reading this book, the main point that came through was that it's really difficult for those who are diagnosed. Because they struggle with impulse control, it can lead them to lashing out at friends, and then they feel worse about themselves, but they legitimately are not able to control it. And so I think the message that I want you to hear is that if someone in your life has FASD, understand that it's not that they won't do something or that they won't stop doing something, it's that they cannot. And so understanding where they're at and what they struggle with and how it feels for them will be so beneficial to your relationship. Not only will they feel validated, heard, and understood, but then you can better understand where they're coming from, so you know that it has nothing to do with you and it's them trying to work through their struggles with FASD. The first diagnosis I just talked about was FAS, Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, but we'll move into the second one, which is Partial Fetal Alcohol Syndrome, or PFAS. And I could go into a ton of detail about all the different symptoms that fall under PFAS, but it's important for you just to know that when it comes to PFAS, they can have all of the symptoms as someone with FAS has, however, it's just not as severe. And in order for these things to be properly diagnosed, you need to see a professional. You need to go see a doctor, a psychiatrist, a therapist who works with FASD so they can make sure that you get the diagnosis that you need so that you can get the help that you deserve. The third diagnosis I want to address, and I'm going to read from my notes because it's a long one, is neurobehavioral disorder associated with prenatal alcohol exposure, otherwise called ND-PAE. Now, ND-PAE is when a child or adult will have issues in 3 areas. The first is thinking and memory. And one of the ways that this can present itself is someone forgetting something they just learned. Those with ND-PAE will learn something in school, try to go home and do their homework, and have no recollection and no memory of what they already previously learned just a few hours before. And this can be extremely frustrating for the person who's struggling, as well as it can make it hard for them to keep up in school or work. Also, because memory is an issue, it can make it hard for them to plan things, to remember the things that they were supposed to do or things they told people they'd show up for. So planning is another issue that they struggle with. The second area that they'll struggle with is behavior issues. People with ND-PAE can throw huge tantrums. They can have a really difficult time switching from one task to another. And that is why having an IEP, an individualized education program in place at the school, is so important. It's really pivotal to their success, because when someone is struggling, people might not understand why. And if they're expecting them to transition from one subject matter to another really quickly, let's say they only have 3 to 5 minutes in between classes, that can be really overwhelming, and that can cause a tantrum. It can cause them to lash out and be extremely angry and frustrated. The third area that they'll struggle with is just day-to-day living, meaning it's hard to bathe ourselves and to get up on time and to plan with other children, other parents, other families, and to dress appropriately for the day, for the weather, for whatever's expected of them. They can struggle so much with this, which can cause them to be late to work or school, forget that they're supposed to have a play date with that child, or all of the above. And just as a side note, in order for this to be diagnosed as per the DSM, the mom who was pregnant with this child must have had at least 13 drinks per month or more than 2 in a sitting. And I only say that because it's important for those of us out there who maybe want to have children or may become pregnant, or maybe we already think we are pregnant. There is no amount of alcohol that is safe for you to consume while you're pregnant. Having 2 or more drinks in a sitting is not a lot for a normal adult. However, if we are pregnant or trying to become pregnant, please do not drink. You can do so much harm to your baby developmentally, and it can make things so much more difficult for your child and for yourself. And so I just want to bring that up because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about, oh, it's fine if it's, early on in the pregnancy, or if it's not too much, or it's just a couple of glasses of wine. There is no amount of alcohol that they know to be safe to consume while we're pregnant. And the fourth and final diagnosis I'm going to touch on in this video is alcohol-related neurodevelopmental disorder, or ARNID. Those diagnosed with ARNID will not have the facial features associated with FAS, meaning, the small eyes or the thin lip, the things we talked about before. They don't find those with ARNID to have that. However, but what they do find is those diagnosed with ARNID do have developmental disabilities associated with their central nervous system, which what that really means is they have brain damage, and that can cause behavioral and learning disabilities. I was asked by many Kenyans to create this video, and my hope for it is to remove the stigma associated with FASD. There's so much shame involved from a parent's perspective. I mean, if I drank when I was pregnant because maybe I didn't know right away, or maybe I had an alcohol problem, a lot of mothers feel shame for causing this in their children. And those with FASD, because it's so unknown and not talked about and not dealt with at the school level, in many cases can lead to more shame because we get irritable, we lash out, and then we feel worse about ourselves, but legitimately we don't have control over that. And so the more that we talk about it, the more understanding, the better. Maybe you've been diagnosed with FASD. What do? The first thing we can do, set realistic expectations for ourselves. That means no comparison. Don't even think about it. Everyone is different. Like I said, even in the FASD umbrella, everyone's going to experience it different, and so know that your situation is unique to you, and you have to set expectations that fit you and meet you where you're at. The second thing we can do is get support as needed. Because this can cause so many issues for us in learning and school, it's so important that we make sure we have an IEP if we need one. I'll link in the description, I have a video about IEPs and what those are and how we can get those in place. Also, if you need a tutor, make sure that you set that up. Check in one-on-one with your teacher to see how they feel you're doing, what other support they can give you. Also, check in with your disabilities office and the services they offer. Make sure that you're getting your needs met. And if needed, get a social worker or a therapist. We can fight on your behalf and make sure that you get the help you need when you need it most. And the third thing is support groups. Like I said, there's so much shame and embarrassment associated with FASD. It can be so healing and validating to hear from other people going through something similar. And I'll link in the description a resource so you can find a support group in your area. And the fourth and final thing we can do is get in therapy. Having FASD can put us at a higher risk for trauma, for getting in trouble with the law, for keeping up with life expectations like sleep, hygiene, etc. And also, adoption and foster care is so common. Make sure that you get in therapy as soon as possible so you have support when you need it. Through all of my research and reading articles about FASD, it only taught me more and more that there is no amount of alcohol that is safe for us to consume when we're pregnant. So please, if you're not using protection, please don't drink. I hope you found this video helpful and informative. In all honesty, all through my training, no one really talked that much about it. I think I learned about it in one class, and so it's important that we have this conversation. Are there other topics you want me to address? Let me know in the comments. Are there things that I forgot or something else that you want to mention about your experience? Let us know, because we're working together towards a healthy mind and a healthy body. And I will see you next time. Bye.